What's happening, guys? This is James Blonde. This time we're taking a quick first look at the Banner Saga factions. Now, this game has been out on Steam since January or February, so we decided to take a look. Now, this game is a turn-based strategy game, and I've only actually played one other tactical game, and that was the beta of Wakfu. But either way, we'll take a look at a match that I played and talk about what I've gathered from the game so far. Now, the game is published by Stoic Studio and is available right now, like I said, in the free-to-play section of Steam. Okay, so when you start off the game, you immediately get introduced to some of the storyline, but the first thing you'll notice is the art style of the game, which is really reminds me of some of those older serious cartoons back in the 90s, like Gargoyles, or X-Men, or Batman, except, you know, with Vikings and giants instead. But this style of animation works really well with the transitions from cutscene to the actual match, and I've got to say, for games like Wakfu, Gun Swords, and in this one, it's the animations that make the game that much more exciting to get into as your turn takes place. Now, the game offers up a nice tutorial after the first initial cutscene takes place, teaching players how the various stats work and the ins and outs of the battlefield. For example, when it's your turn, you actually move your character first before you can actually attack, and once you've done that, you can't actually move any further until it's your turn again with that same character or your next character. When the match starts, players start out in the opposite ends of each other, just like a game of chess. Starting out here in this match, for some reason my opponent had the ability to start with several characters ahead. I'm not really sure how that's fair, but whatever. How did he get his guys up here already that fast?
You know something you don't.
Well, that's shitty. Just after the tutorial and before you're set off to play your first match, you assign class-based warriors to your warband. Well, you'll be able to as you gain more renown, which is kind of like XP and currency that you gain from killing enemies in battle. But for now, the game starts you out with a preset warband that consists of the game's 4 base classes: the Shield Banger, the Archer, the Raider, and the Warrior, each of which you can level up, or promote rather, as you gain experience in matches. The Shield Banger, as a giant, is pretty much a defender and supporter for the rest of the lineup. They, of course, have the highest amount of armor. They have a unique passive that makes enemies, aside from archers, take damage to their armor as they attack. The Warrior, also a giant, work more on the offensive side, dealing the most damage, with a special move that grants them the ability to strike multiple targets at once. The Archer, like in most cases, is a long-range class set with hit chance and the ability to deal bonus damage equal to 1 strength for every 2 points of armor the target is missing, but only in the condition that she doesn't move during that turn. I'll explain a little bit more about strength and armor in just a second. And finally, the Raider is a happy medium, it seems, between the Shield Banger and the Warrior. They've got a pretty good range on movement and a passive that boosts others' defense as well as their own. Now, each one of these classes can specialize when they're promoted, and then they support slightly different roles in the battlefield. But that doesn't actually come until later on. And so these are the 6 characters in my warband: 1 Shield Banger, 1 Warrior, 2 Archers, and 2 Raiders, one of which is promoted to a Thrasher, giving him increased stats primarily in offense and special ability. The gameplay itself is actually very simple, but the trick is that it's hard to master. Each player has 6 characters in their outfit, like I was saying before, and these characters act in order from left to right, like you see here, alternating turns, blue indicating me, red my opponent. Even if you're outnumbered on the battlefield later on in the match, it will still alternate in order all the way up to the point until you or your enemy is down to 1 character. At that point, they will go into pillage mode. It's actually pretty funny because their entire team gets a whack at you before your turn is actually up again. Okay, so the stats that you see here at the bottom left corner are set up in a point system similar to that of other tactical games. The first one is Armor or Shield. This blocks incoming damage to your strength, but can be broken down by a break attack. See, when you actually decide to attack an enemy, you choose whether to attack using a strength attack or a break attack. The numbers above the symbols show how much damage it'll actually do. Which you choose, I suppose, is based on which class you're attacking and which class you are using to attack. The next one is Strength, which is weird because it's also your health. So say if you lose 3 strength, then you're doing 3 less strength in the form of damage to your opponent. You lose all of your strength and then your character dies. In terms of dealing damage to an opponent, your strength minus their armor equals damage. So you're going to want to whittle them down any way you can, and by taking away their armor makes it easier to take away their strength, as long as your character is healthy. It is kind of a confusing concept. The interesting one is willpower. See, when you click on this, it'll reveal your entire team's strength, armor, and the number above in the star is each character's individual willpower. Willpower has to do with several different aspects of the battle. When you go to move your character, you'll notice that their normal movement is within the blue squares, but you might also notice you can choose to move a little bit further into these yellow squares with the cost of willpower indicated by the little stars above the characters once used. The game tells you that willpower will not replenish, but I guess they mean automatically, because you can tell your character to rest and you will acquire 1 point of willpower by doing so. You can also use willpower to deal more damage, but your exertion points determine just how much willpower you can use on an action. For example, when you go to attack an enemy, you choose either the strength attack or break attack. You may notice 1, 2, or 3 stars above that you can click to add additional damage to the attack. The number of stars is determined by exertion, which is something you can improve as you promote your characters. One drawback though to leveling and adding points to your characters is that the game matches you against others with similar powers. That means that if your team is high level, you'll inevitably be matched against experienced players right away. Now I'll explain why this isn't a good thing, because at the same time it is a good thing. When I first started playing the game, I went through 5 matches, none of which I got to complete because my opponent would either back out or get disconnected. The problem there is that I would win the match by default, and it would allow me to level my characters, which in turn would match me up with players of a higher difficulty that I'd have to challenge even though I've never actually completed a match. On the other hand, if some players wanted to pay cash to buy renown, the stuff I mentioned earlier that allows you to upgrade and promote your characters, they would use it to add points to their characters, but in return have to face opponents with the same stats. One could say the game is pay to win and that you could purchase renown, but at the same time, with the matching system tied into the stat system, it's not really an incentive to pay a bunch of money to make it pay to win. Now, for players that take their tactical games pretty seriously, there are tournaments and ranked matches, so you can definitely try your luck at that. Overall, the game is entertaining and challenging. It's like a virtual chess game with an extremely cool art style and neat animations to go with it. This really isn't my style of game, but games like this will challenge you, and if that's actually what you're looking for, you might want to give it a shot. So with that said, thanks for watching, guys. If you're looking for more information about the Banner Saga's factions, head over to the game profile at MMOhead.com or download the game and try it out for yourself free on Steam. But until next time, guys, that's going to be it for me. I'm James Blonde. See you out there, gamers.